to identify something as an intermediate rib. And we have head, neck, tubercle,
Where's the tubercle? Oh,
that
that
bump,
guy.
the
Gotcha.
bump. And then angle, about over here, and then shaft or body.
Okay.
Now, you have to be able to identify rib 1 as rib 1, rib 2 as rib 2, other ribs as intermediate, as a ribbon below rib 2, significantly below as an intermediate rib, and then rib 11 or 12 as a rib 11 or 12. So if I just show one, since they only differ from one another with respect to length, the closest that you'd be able to come if I only show one is rib 11 or 12. Now, as you descend through the thorax, the ribs become less bent and with the bodies tilted more obliquely. So the most bent rib is rib 1. And then, so you have to be able to identify this one as rib 1. There's a picture of it. There are two pictures, for both the left one and the right one pictured in the atlas. This is rib 1. And note about rib 1 that it has a small undivided head. This is only articulated with a full costal facet. All the ribs that are articulated with two demi-facets have a divided head, with partial facets on the head of the rib separated by a crest. But rib 1 has, and ribs 11 and 12 have undivided heads. And for rib 1, it's a small undivided head. For ribs 11 and 12, it's a large, that means relatively speaking, undivided head. Then rib 1 also has the longest neck, the largest tubercle, the greatest bend over here.
Wait, largest neck, largest tubercle.
The longest neck, the largest tubercle, the greatest bend, and the flat of the body is in a horizontal plane of section. Okay. So that's rib 1, a small undivided head. There's only one facet on the head. The longest neck, the largest tubercle, the greatest bend over here, the sharpest bend, you see that? And the flat of the body is in a horizontal plane of section. So you got that?
No. What was the
The
left?
smallest head, the longest neck, the largest tubercle, and the greatest bend over here. And then the flat of the body is in a horizontal plane of section, or parallel to a horizontal plane of section. Now, as you go downward, the head becomes divided. So the ribs 2 through 9, and sometimes 10, the ribs are the head of the rib is divided into two facets, one for a demi-facet on its own body and one for a demi-facet on the body above. So in the range of 2 through 9, the ribs have divided heads, two facets separated by a crest. The crest is bound to the intervertebral disc between the two bodies by a ligament. And then the tubercle moves toward the head, so the neck gets shorter as you go downward. It becomes less bent, and then the body gets tilted. First a little, so that it's tilted obliquely. I'll show rib 2 in a moment, you'll see that. So as you go down through the series of ribs, at the rib 1 level, the body is in a horizontal plane of section, or parallel to one. At the rib 2 level, it's tilted a little bit obliquely. At the rib 3 level, the flat of the body is tilted more obliquely. At the rib 4 level, more obliquely. And at the rib 5 level, the flat of the body is vertical. And that's true for all the rest of the bodies as well. So that follows the shape of the thoracic cavity, which is shaped like like a cone. Remember that all of this is external to the thoracic cavity, the clavicle and the scapula and the shoulder joint are over here. But the actual thorax is shaped like a cone, with a narrow opening up over here and then expands as you go downward. So that's why rib 1 has to be like this. because it's near the apex of a cone. The thorax is actually shaped like this. All of this is external to the thorax. Yes.
Can you just repeat again, ribs 2 through 9, the head is divided?
The head is divided, and then the neck gradually becomes shorter as you go down with it, because the tubercle is migrating toward the head. You get shorter and shorter necks. This bend becomes less, as you'll see. I'll just show you that. And then the flat of the body becomes more and more tilted. So it's a little oblique at the rib 2 level, more oblique at the rib 3 level, still more oblique at the rib 4 level, and then vertical. The flat of the body is vertical. Thereafter, from rib 5 down through rib 12, the flat of the body is vertical. Okay. So this is rib 2. It's got a small divided head. The size of the head gets bigger as you go downward. The neck isn't as long. The tubercle isn't as big. The degree of bend here isn't as much. And then look at this. The flat of the body is tilted a little bit. You see that? It's a little oblique. Now, when you get a lot farther down, this is a rib in the range of about 5 through 7. You see now you have a large divided head, a shorter neck, the tubercle is closer to the head. And then you see this is much less bent. You just compare that to rib 2. Look how much rib 2 is bent. And you see this is bent much less. Okay, so you can identify this as an intermediate rib.
Are you gonna hold up a rib on the quiz and say which rib is this?
No, not on the quiz, on the big exam.
So this isn't going to be on the quiz?
On the quiz, I might have, you'll be able to identify this if I have the picture in time. I'm probably not going to have the ribs in the quiz, though.
Oh,
This, if it is, you'd have to just be able to say rib 1 for this, for the quiz. Rib 2,
I just asked that.
intermediate rib,
Okay.
and then finally, but for the big exam, you have to say how you know that it's rib 2 or rib 1 and so on. These are ribs 11 and 12. The longer one of the two is rib 12. Now, this is identical with respect to morphology. The reason that they look a little different is one comes from one side of the body, one from the other, but I don't want to spend more time rummaging over there to get two from the same side. So on these two, the longer one is rib 11. So since I'm only going to show one on the big exam,